schedules to attend this webinar on sanction compliance requirements in UAE. So to introduce myself first, I am Jyoti Maheshwari from AML UAE team. AML UAE is a firm focused on assisting clients on anti-money laundering compliances in the United Arab Emirates as well as other GCC nations. We offer a wide range of services around AML compliances, which includes GoAML registration, setting up in-house AML compliance department, assisting in documenting your AML policies and procedure, and also assisting in selecting the appropriate AML screening software. So while talking about this and on the popular demand of our clients and to complete our offering on AML compliance, we are here presenting you the AML screening software, Castellum.AI. To give you a brief about the solution, so Castellum.AI is one of the world's leading screening software, which is powered on patented technology and is enriched with international as well as country-specific sanctions, almost 1,000 plus watch list, and global data on politically exposed person as well as shelf companies. With this brief about the solution, I'll also like to introduce to Mr. Peter, who is the Chief Executive Officer and the co-founding member of the Castellum.AI solution. Before co-founding the software, Peter was associated with United States Treasury Department, serving in multiple roles. And one of the role happens to be the advisory on the sanctions implementation. So this is brief about the solution and the founder of the solution. Just one more information, as Peter mentioned earlier, before end of this webinar, we will have a time to answer your questions. In the meanwhile, if you have any questions, feel free to put it in the Q&A section available at the bottom of your Zoom application. So without much of ado, I'll request Mr. Peter to discuss the AML sanction screening requirements in the country and walk us through the software. Over to you, Peter.
Thank you very much, Jyoti. Really want to thank AML UAE for partnering with us. I want to thank all the participants for taking time out of their busy evenings, and just want to note that we are very much friends of the UAE. We already have UAE clients, we have UAE partners. We're very familiar with UAE law and requirements. And our goal here today is to help you understand how to not get fined. Because I think up until last couple of years, it was possible to do a lot of things in the UAE in terms of financial transactions that were illegal in other places, including Europe and the United States and the UK. That has now changed. The UAE is definitely cracking down. There have been fines on small organizations, there have been fines on banks, there have been fines on international persons. And so, and for those of you that have not gotten a compliance system yet and are not doing screening, the time is definitely now. And you don't take my word for it, because we can all just Google UAE AML fines or sanctions fines and see what's out there. So we're going to start kind of with really an overview of what are sanctions. So what do we have to comply with? Because this is not like other laws. Sanctions are a restriction on particular activity or party, and they're intended to punish or incentivize a change in policy or behavior. So somebody is, for example, a Iranian proliferator, or a ISIS terrorist, or Russian or Syrian government official. Sanctions are placed on them, but sanctions can also be taken off. And so these lists are dynamic. So it's very, very important, because the lists change. And so you can't screen something once and be done. You have to screen them on a daily basis. And that's really important. For the UAE, you can screen on a daily basis. In the United States, I know this does not apply to you, but just to let you know, in the United States, regulators now expect people to be screening real time. So basically continually. But for the UAE, once a day is what will work. So sanctions can target a person, sanctions can target a company, sanctions can target a vessel, an aircraft, or a country or a sector of the economy. So you can have sanctions against Peter Piatetsky. You can have sanctions against, let's say, Emirates Air. You can have sanctions against a vessel or a maritime company, or you can have sanctions against a country, for example, Iran. But the sanctions that you really need to be concerned about are what's called list-based. So it's a name on a list. And that is pretty straightforward. And if you check your customers and your transactions against a sanctions list. So who has sanctions and where do they apply? So sanctions are adopted by governments and international bodies. So governments like the United Arab Emirates, international bodies like the United Nations and the European Union. All United Nations members are obligated to implement UN sanctions. And then some countries also add, so a lot of countries do a domestic list, United Nations list, and then they might add a third list or fourth list of big economies, like let's say US sanctions or EU sanctions. It is very, very important, and this is very good why we have kind of AML UAE here, and that they are able to guide you in this process, is understanding your legal requirements. So as UAE businesses, you need to be screening at a very minimum UAE sanctions and United Nations sanctions. Some of you may also choose to screen US and EU, but you are not legally required to do that. So that kind of depends on where you do business. Some of you might say, okay, that's really wonderful that you came from the US and you've sanctioned people before and you're telling me what to do. I don't care. Why do you legally have to do this? So UAE Cabinet Resolution 74 of 2020 requires all persons and legal entities, including financial institutions and DNFBPs, to implement targeted financial sanctions. So there is a UAE law, again, Cabinet Resolution 74 of 2020, which sets out the requirement and also sets out the fines. DNFBPs, I remember the first time I heard the term, I thought it was very strange. Now it's kind of stuck in my head. But DNFBPs, it's really anyone that touches money that is not a bank. It stands for designated non-financials, businesses, and persons. So people in real estate, precious metals and stones, lawyers, notaries, accountants, corporate service providers. So if you have a very successful kebab restaurant or you sell oud, you are not regulated. But if you are lawyer, notary, accountant, jeweler, yes, you do. And especially if you're a retailer selling items over $15,000. Sorry, can you hear me? Okay. Now, sorry, Jody, can you go on mute so we don't have audio feedback? Thank you. So the office that implements this in, okay. Sorry, here I am. So the office in the UAE that manages is the Executive Office for Control and Non-Proliferation. It publishes what is the UAE terrorist sanctions list. And to comply with Cabinet Resolution 74, all businesses should check the local UAE list of sanctions and United Nations customers against. So kind of, what are we establishing first? What are sanctions? It's legal restrictions against individuals, entities, vessels, aircraft, locations that say you cannot do business with them. Who has sanctions? UAE, United Nations, US, EU. What are your legal requirements in the United Arab Emirates? It is to do UAE and UN, and pretend that's the legal requirement, but then you can add additional ones. What's the specific law? Cabinet Resolution 74. And then what do you actually need to do? Like, what does this look like in your day-to-day? So you need to be screening current customers, prospects, and business transaction counterparties, directors, agents representing customer, and ultimate beneficial owners. So let's say I'm a maritime company. I need to screen the companies I do business with. I need to screen my employees and directors. I need to screen my vendors. So if I'm buying fuel from somebody. And really, it's basically anyone you are giving money to or receiving money from. It's very important to remember that kind of the UAE is in a pretty dangerous neighborhood. It's a very safe and very prosperous business haven, but you have Iran, which is one of the most sanctioned countries in the world. You have a very large amount of Russian nationals, many of whom are sanctioned, that are going there. So the risk is very, very large and continuous. And now I'm going to, I see we have some questions so far, and we'll get to those. I now want to just show a little bit with the platform, some examples. All right, so we have here the Castellum.AI platform. It says search sanctions for free. So there's a free version. The reason we have a free version is so that you don't have to take our word for anything. You can test the platform out. So we encourage all of you to sign up. If you never want to talk to us again, you can still use it. But their paid version is kind of what you need to comply. So you create an account, and just so everyone can see, you press the sign up button, fill out this information. You will be signed in. As a reminder, everyone, there is a code AML UAE 20, which gives everyone a discount. So once you log in, you're able to search, okay, I want to search for sanctions, politically exposed persons, or I only want to do sanctions. Now, here are a couple of examples that are very relevant in terms of the risk that there is in the UAE. So you search a name. Here you can see this is an individual on the UAE national list of terrorist individuals and entities. Why are they sanctioned? The UAE Cabinet Resolution number 20, their passport number, where they're from, and also the name in Arabic. Now, to kind of zoom out from this example, if we do sanctions and look at United Arab Emirates, there is actually a pretty significant amount of sanctioned companies and individuals. This is a lot more than you have in, I believe, all of Europe combined. So there's a very large amount of sanctions risk here, both from the UAE as well as other countries. And you can also use the Castellum.AI platform to narrow the risk down. So if you are a jeweler and you only do business with individuals, all right, it's a bit smaller. 109, you can see all of the details here. If it's you want to look at entities, here you go. Now, as a business, you collect information on your customers. You collect name, IDs, etc. So the screening platform allows you to search and screen by IDs as well. So you can see here is the information. Now, it's not just an individual ID, it's also, you can search for business IDs. And we're very good at only showing you true positives, not a lot of false positives shown. So, if we have something different, you see no matches. That's what we'll show you. You can also change the threshold if you want to make sure that you're catching something. Now, of course, the solution would not be very useful if we couldn't search in Arabic. So you can do your compliance screening in Arabic as well as 100 other languages. Not an issue. And I want to show now kind of a workflow. So this is in the Castellum.AI platform, what is free is doing searches. You can do searches and kind of the filters that I showed you, but for you to do compliance and not get fined, you need to keep records. And so this is where the record keeping portion starts. So we have this onboarding workflow. And so I'd say, okay, I searched this name, matched here. And let's say I'll say this is a false positive. And you have three options here. So really you can have a fresher be doing this, or you could have a CEO be doing this, and the results should be the same. So let's say false positive. Why? And I would say, let's see, ID is different, date of birth is different. And then I would say like customer document shows that despite name match, different person. You submit and you have an audit trail here. Now, let's say you need to send a report on a daily basis, someone, or you want to keep records on paper. You can go and generate a report, which will show who did the screening, what date and time. This will have the time zone as well. The score you did it, what you checked, what the results were. So you can see the Arabic script is right here, false positive, a full appendix of everything you searched. So if you search less lists, then you will get less, kind of, this will show less. Now you don't have to do that because we also have an audit trail that is electronic. So you can see all the searches I've done previously, and you can see this is the one I did right now. So you have this here. And then another very important feature here is batch search. So I'm going to show you a file here. So you can location, name, IDs. You can see I have Arabic, Korean, Chinese, Russian, and the batch file is, the search works very similarly. And again, Jyoti and AML UAE are excellent at training everyone on this. So they can answer all of your questions, as can we. But let's say you have a customer file and you want to check it on a daily basis. So this is how easy it is to do this. So you just upload your customer file. This file has actual matches in it, but this is kind of what it looks like. Say, okay, I have a true positive, entity, ID match. And we are also adding a feature later this month, which will allow you to schedule these screens. So right now, kind of, you have to do this manually. Towards the end of this month, it will be where you say, I want this to run every morning at 9 a.m., for example. So I know we're about out of time, but just kind of as a quick overview, with the Castellum.AI platform, you create an account here. Click on search sanctions for free to get access to the workflow and other features. All of the pricing is right here. So you click here, sign up now. Promotion code AML UAE 20. And the features, you can search in any language. You can search IDs. You can select your categories. You can search PEPs as well. There's batch screening, electronic records. So that's the platform. And then to kind of really go back to why you care, right? Nobody does compliance because it's just fun. We do it to make sure we're not doing business with terrorists and to make sure that we comply with the law. So in the UAE, all DNFBPs have to screen customers and counterparties against UAE and UN sanctions lists. That's at a minimum. Fines for failure to screen sanctions are up to 1 million dirham. So that's over $250,000. That's a lot more than I want to pay for a fine. I'm assuming the same is for yourselves. And transactions involving international wires should also be screened against US and EU and maybe UK sanctions, depending on where it's going. So a big value add of the Castellum.AI platform is the fact that we have all of the lists. So you want UAE, you want UN, you want OFAC, it's all there. You can test all of it. AML UAE is our local partner. They can provide all of the training. And if you sign up before the end of the month, you can use the promo code AML UAE for 20% off. So again, that will expire at the end of the month. So I now want to stop and turn it over to Jody and also answer questions.
Thank you, Peter. So I think it was very insightful to have an overview of the compliance requirement in UAE, and also thank you for walking us through the solution. So I think we should take up the questions.
Let's do it. I see there's one question. So regarding US and UK sanctions provide for 50% threshold on ownership and control. However, such a threshold is not provided in EU and UN sanctions text. Therefore, if an entity that is sanctioned in the UN EU holds 40% of a third entity, does the third entity become sanctioned even if not included in the UN EU list? So this is I feel like this webinar is kind of a very sanctions 101. This question is kind of a sanctions 405 class, but the answer is pretty straightforward. Lists do not combine. So first you need to start with, what is my legal requirement? So your legal requirements are UAE and UN. The UAE and UN do not have 50% rules. So you do not have to be, you are not legally required to do this. Now, should you perhaps worry about it? You know, is that something that you want to make sure you're covering? That depends on your risk and your risk tolerance. I always advise people to not do more than they're legally required. So the first question kind of is, if you are you screening US and UK sanctions? Then you should care about it. If you're only screening UAE and UN, you don't. But in short, kind of if a company's lists do not combine, if an EU, you don't kind of add ownership percentages across lists. And if a company combined is owned, let's say 40% by something, that one is not sanctioned. So you can legally do business with a company that is up to 49% owned by someone that is sanctioned. I see a question. How often is sanctions data updated in our platform? Thank you. Every 5 minutes. So if we check all the sources, so we check UAE, OFAC, Japan, MOFA, India, MHA, we check all this every 5 minutes. And you will see things in our platform before you see them in the news. And we issue corrections to governments all the time. We've issued corrections to the US. We've issued corrections to Canada. We've issued corrections to UK. We've issued corrections to EU, even the UN. So the data quality is excellent and updated every 5 minutes, and that's across all languages. I see another question, how many sanctions lists are connected globally? So in the platform, we have over 1,000 watch lists. Let me answer the question of how many sanctions lists we have for you right now. And also show you how I get that answer. So within the platform, we have list sources and categories. So I'm going to select sanctions only. And we have 446 sanctions lists. And something that is relevant to the question is actually how many countries have sanctions globally. So we recently published the Global Sanctions Index. So this will tell you which countries have sanctions. So the yellow here means no sanctions. So you can see the majority of countries in the world do not have sanctions. So these are the countries that do, and those are the lists that we have. I see another question: are there any policies for sanctions? I think what you, Samir, I think what you mean by that question is like, do you need policies and procedures? The answer is yes. I would recommend you talk to GOD afterwards, because that is what AML UAE is really excellent at, is kind of structuring your policies and procedures for the screening. But the policy and procedures would essentially look something like Samir Batra LLC. We screen our clients once a day against these lists. When we have a match, we follow the following instructions, etc. So what regulators generally look for is basically something that is so clear that you could have a junior person come in and understand exactly what to do. I see a question here from Dr. Peter Wilson. Is a tax advisor a DNFBP? I believe the answer is yes. It is. Rusar, is a software approved? So governments don't approve software, but if you look at our advisory board, one of our advisors is the head of enforcement for the UAE Central Bank. So to me, that is, it says yes. And we do have already UAE clients as well as UAE government work. I think let's see. Any other questions? Yeah, and I think that, you know, the question of is the software approved is a really good one, because what you're essentially asking is this reliable? The answer is yes. You know, we have former Treasury of other U.S. government regulators who are running kind of this company. We have advisors who are European and UAE government officials. We have UAE and other government users, clients, and contracts, and we have over 1,400 users globally. So I think a big reason why people like the platform is because you can try it for free, and so you can test it out. And then once you see, okay, I like the data, I like the coverage, I need the record keeping. That's when we urge you to kind of sign up. So I know we're scheduled for 30 minutes and we're a little bit over. Who is our advisor from the EU Central Bank? It is Herr Deming. Here, let me show you. And for those of you interested to learn more about our company, so this is part of our team. This is Herr Deming, head of enforcement at the Central Bank of the United Arab Emirates. I'm former Treasury, former State Department and FBI, as well as other former government officials. So kind of we very much know how to get people and banks and DNFPs fined. And so that helps us know how to not get you fined. So I want to just confirm, Jody, what is the correct, if we can put the code in the chat?
Yes, we can do that. I'll just put that code.
Thank you. And then I see we have a question actually about relatives and close associates screening. So let me get to that as well. So we do have politically exposed persons here. And so if I select, I'm going to go here and select global PEPs. And then I'm going to select United Arab Emirates. So this will show you we have 139 PEPs, primary PEPs for the UAE. And then you'll be able to see, for example, Abdullah bin Zayed Al Nahyan, you have his name, aliases, and then you have all of the people he's connected to. This is a very large family. So you can see his parents, siblings, and you can also go kind of up and down that tree, the relationship tree. And then you can also do that for, you can do a workflow here. So again, I do want to be clear, like, today we're talking about sanctions. Sanctions are your legal requirements, but PEP screening is encouraged. And I feel like maybe we should probably do our next webinar for the UAE around PEPs. So same workflow here. Ruxar, does that answer your question? Samir, if someone is on a sanctions list, is the family tree also part of the sanctions list? No, the answer is no. So if I am sanctioned, my mother and father are not sanctioned. And if, let's say, your wife or husband is sanctioned, you are not sanctioned. But so legally you can still do that, but then that becomes a question of risk. And here I'll show an interesting example. So everyone, of course, is familiar with the Russia sanctions and Vladimir Putin. Most of you have probably never heard of Yurat Fasin. Yurat Fasin is the son-in-law of Vladimir Putin. So you can see son-in-law of Vladimir Putin. Who is he connected to? So this is his wife. And these are the parents, the Putins. And so if we look at the sanctions tree, or sorry, this relationship tree, Maria Vorontsova, the daughter of Putin, you'll now see she is sanctioned by Australia, EU, Switzerland, Canada, US, UK, Japan, and France, and she is a PEP. So not every PEP is sanctioned, not every sanctioned person is a PEP, but our platform does allow you to see this. And again, the looking things up is very important, but what you need to then do is do your compliance. And this is the most important part. So moving from kind of the search to name match, let's say name match, ID match, customer rejected, business denied. And then you have UAE government coming to you. By the way, if you see, I did maybe like 10 seconds of clicking. And this is what I have, this full standardized clean audit trail. And you can also export the report. I see another question from Nandal. Is there adverse news? There is. I think, Nandal, my first question is kind of, are you already doing sanction screening? And I would say, let's speak with Jyoti afterwards, because if kind of the most important thing is to first make sure that you are doing sanction screening. And then you can add, PEP and negative news screening on top of that. What I will say about the pricing is sanctions, PEPs, export control, all of that is included in the Castellum.AI platform. And there are unlimited searches. So we do not charge you per search. Negative news is extra, but we do have it. I want to conclude just because we have, I don't want to take up folks' time, but I want to very much thank everyone for the questions. I especially want to thank Jyoti and AML UAE. I want to thank all of our participants. We'll definitely be doing another webinar. I encourage you to create an account and go to the Castellum.AI pricing page. We will be sending kind of an email out afterwards with the discount code. If you have any questions, please follow up with us afterwards. And again, Cabinet Resolution 74 of 2020, it is not a joke. There are fines already coming. Stay with us kind of ahead of the law, and have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.